Some Spanish verbs require an additional step when we conjugate them. These verbs are called stem changers. To understand stem changers, we need to understand that all verbs in Spanish are made up of two parts, a stem and an ending. The ending is always going to be AR, ER, or IR. The stem is everything that comes before that. Here we've got three sample verbs. Let's make sure that we can identify the stem and the ending in each of these verbs. We'll start by looking for the ending. Again, the ending is always going to be AR, ER, or IR, and of course it's at the end, so that's really easy. Here we have the ending, en hablar, en tener, and en cumplir. Again, the stem is everything that comes before the ending, so that makes that part pretty easy as well. En hablar, the stem would be HABL, en tener, TEN, and en cumplir, CUMPL. Those are the stems in these verbs. Every verb has a stem and an ending. Normally, when we conjugate a verb, we remove the ending and we add a new ending based on the appropriate verb chart. However, with stem changers, just like the name tells us, we also have to change something in the stem of the verb. So in addition to following the normal steps, cutting off the ending and adding our new endings, we also have to make a small change to the stem of certain verbs that are stem changers. We'll go through and take a look at that. There are 4 different types of stem changers, and we'll talk about each one. The 4 types of stem changers in the present tense are E to IE, E to I, O to UE, and U to UE. The most common of these is the E to I, the least common is the U to UE, but you will run across all 4 of these types of stem changers as you work with verbs in the present tense. Let's use E to IE as an example and demonstrate how stem changers work. The verb pensar is an E to IE stem changer. We can also see that it is an AR verb, so that means that when we conjugate pensar, we're going to use the AR endings, which I have on a verb chart here. We know that if this were just a regular verb, what we would do is remove the AR, and then depending on who we were conjugating the verb for, we would add the appropriate ending. So that might give us pensó, pensás, pensa, and so forth. And that is essentially what we're going to do. We're going to pick our ending based on the subject of our sentence, and we're going to stick it on. But because this is a stem changing verb, we have one additional step. We said that it is an E to IE stem changer. All that means is that we change the E in our stem to IE. So instead of pienso, we have pienso. Instead of pensas, as we might have expected, we have piensas, and so forth. Now there's one thing that you have to know about stem changers, and that is that the nosotros form does not change. So even though it's pienso, for the nosotros form, we do not change the stem. We would just have pensamos. The same would be the case for the vosotros form. The stem does not change there. If we looked at all the different stem changers in the present tense, we would see that as a general rule that holds true. We have to, in addition to conjugating the verb, we have to change the stem in the yo form, the tu form, the él, ella, usted form, and the ellos, ellas, ustedes form, or in other words, these ones that I have circled here. Because these are the forms that change, these verbs are often called boot verbs. You can see the shape of the boot as I circled the forms of the verb that require a stem change. Whether our stem changer is an E to IE stem changer, an E to I, an O to UE, or a U to UE stem changer, we're going to follow these same steps. And again, typically, stem changers are boot verbs. It's the verbs in these places on the verb chart that change. Let's look at an example. Jugar is a U to UE stem changer. If we had yo blank a basketball, we would say, okay, that's an AR verb, so I'm going to cut off the AR, and we would expect to stick an O on the end and have this. That would be correct if it were not a stem changer. However, since it is a stem changer, we have to go in, and where the U is, we have to make that UE instead. And so our actual correct form of the verb is juego. Yo juego a basketball. You just have to memorize which verbs are stem changers. Also, if a stem has more than one vowel, the one closer to the end gets changed.